Okay, we are recording. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Jacobs, and I am the SC for Ed area rep for the Lancaster area. And today I'm doing a Q&A with Vicki Holt, who is running for the SC Senate seat for District 15. And so I'm going to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about yourself and your platform, and then I will ask you the questions for the Q&A.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vicki Holt. I am running for Senate 15, and my platform is pretty basic, and it's possibly has something to do with the fact that I am daughter of a teacher. She is long retired, but education, educators, and the importance of our students and our teachers has always been important to me. And now more than ever, I have to tell you, I watched the press conference with our governor yesterday, and it was heartbreaking. It's not for our children or our teachers to be the lab rats, if you will. They need to be protected, and we need to open schools safely. Like I say, education is one of my priorities. I attended the SPRAT Issues Conference, and I got my SC for Ed legislative agenda, and I love talking and meeting in those groups. It was very empowering and very informative. I like learning, and this has been a learning experience. I am not a homegrown South Carolinian. I picked South Carolina to retire. I was a flight attendant for 43 years, and I've traveled all over the world. And yeah, I chose South Carolina, and I love the people, and I love the state. But I think our education system in the state can be vastly improved, and I hope it will be.
Okay, and that is a great lead-in to our number one question. So the first question, what is your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today?
Well, without even going to the where we stand statewide, I think it's in very poor condition for the most part. And I'll tell you one of the things, and Jim Clyburn has talked about this, Senate candidate Jamie Harrison has talked about this. We cannot lose track of our students. Broadband has to be available across the state. We cannot have students that say that we think are being homeschooled or that we can't even keep track of. So I think that is in a very scary position for so many families. I think our educators are not paid adequately for the most part. And I also feel like they have a contract that can be changed at a whim, and that's not really a contract. So I'd like to see that improved. I'd like to see classroom size improved, which of course now it's to save lives. They have to reduce classroom numbers. So those are just some of the things. I wish I could say I was more optimistic, but I'm very worried. And I want to help. I want to change that.
Yes, I definitely understand. And I think with the pandemic, even though there are so many things that need to be changed, I think, one of the good things that has come out of it is the awareness. Many things that people may not have thought about or even been aware of. Now there is a lot more awareness of what actually needs to happen or is happening with public education.
Because somebody posted, and I thought it was very true, in March, the school buildings were closed.
Right.
The teachers didn't stop teaching.
Exactly.
And they did all that. They went from having a structure with class plan, plans that and all that every day to suddenly having to rebuild that whole different structure and work online. That was amazing.
Yes, on the drop of a dime. All right, question number 2. Okay. If elected, what would be the first step you would take to improve public education?
Raise teacher salaries. That would probably be the first. That would be the first type of legislation, would be to raise teacher salaries that are, here's the thing, teachers should not have to buy supplies should not have to be spending in their classrooms money that they really don't have. But they all should, I think people should find, and this is something the pandemic has done too. It's shown people the value of an educator. It's truly shown them the value. So I would say raise teacher salaries and make sure that their job security is there, that they're not going to be told that, oh, you know what, you didn't pass this test, or you didn't jump through this hoop, so you're not going to get this incremental raise. And make sure that we want to retain good teachers in South Carolina. We don't want them leaving the state. And I think salary and security are two things that would be something we are doable. I do.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. Thank you. All right, our next question. If elected, what specific steps would you take to address the funding of public education?
Well, I sometimes have difficulty understanding exactly where the budgeting goes, because last year there was an overage in the budget. But instead of making sure that public schools and educators got what they've been promised for over 11 years, our governor chose to do what I would sort of call a publicity stunt and send everybody a check for $50. No, that to me is wrong. I would work with those people in the Senate, two of whom I can name right off the bat, Mike Fanning, and in the House, and Mandy Powers Norrell, who care about education and educators, and work with them to co-sponsor or support legislation that makes sure that the tax monies and the overages we have in budget go to education. To me, that wasn't a hard thing, but I think the $50 to every citizen was, well, I think it was money misused.
And that was huge. And that was something that, SC for Ed and educators, throughout the state, I think were really just looking at that thinking, why is it so hard? Or why is it such a difficult decision to fully fund education?
There was a real opportunity there that was missed.
At a bare minimum. And this is, this was a surplus. That was the perfect opportunity to say, yes, we care about education, as you stated in the press conference yesterday. So why not take the opportunity when you had it, instead of sending everybody a $50 check?
Yeah. Right.
Our next question, in your opinion, what would a successful accountability system for education in South Carolina look like?
Well, unlike the dais yesterday, there would be educators. There would be educators that would be a part of the accountability. There wouldn't just be legislators from one party. There would be parents, teachers, and administration in public education working together to make sure that there is accountability. And I mean, that was, to me, yesterday was a visual that I thought was just disarmingly bad. The fact that Molly Spearman wasn't there, although she and the Palmetto Association and SC for Ed made their statements afterwards, but they left out the most important elements of what makes of people that value education. They left them off the stage. So I think we have to make sure that if we have any kind of accountability about how funds are used and how we improve public education, it has to include educators at different levels, whether they're, not just a school board member, but an administrator who's worked in public education as a teacher, as a principal, and then as a higher up. And I also think that we have to let, in some sense, our government know that it isn't just for educating in the classroom, that we have to take the concern of parents right now. I'm, like I said, I'm a retired flight attendant. After 9/11, my company, and I know the other company involved, offered psychologists and psychiatric evaluations and care to adults and to our children. My children were 10 and 12 the day that happened. And this is something, this pandemic and the what's been happening with the pandemic is going to affect kids and educators for a long time, and that needs to be accounted for also. So I think psychologists should be included in this kind of accountability too.
Yes, I agree. And I think, again, when we're talking about awareness and what this pandemic has shown us, I think many of the reasons that a lot of people want kids back in school buildings, it actually comes down to some of the funding deficits. They rely on a school nurse, but some people not even realizing that not all schools have a school nurse.
Right.
And they also rely on schools to deal with those mental health issues of the adults and the children, not even realizing that not all schools have those resources. And so I think, yes, we want to believe that our schools have these capabilities, but the funding hasn't been there. And so they haven't been able to offer those services if education has not been fully funded to give them the resources to provide that for students and the adults, as you said. So those are definitely some great points.
Right.
All right. And so to end, is there anything else that you want to share with the viewers and the voters about your platform or about education in general?
Well, you can go to my website, and that is Holt for SCSenate.com. And that you can find out about my platform, because it isn't just education, although that's very important. Women's healthcare rights and sensible gun laws, that's all part of it. But the part that I would like to include with education is this. My opponent is, at least months ago when he talked about this, was for arming teachers in the classroom. I'm totally against it. I don't think that would improve the safety. And then, of course, now that teachers aren't in the classroom, it's sort of been a moot point. But what I have said, and I said this from the beginning of my campaign, is how we should arm them. We should arm them with the means to have a psychologist or a medical expert that can see the signs of a future bully, of possibly a future shooter. And if we can have classrooms that are small enough, that will also be easier to do. So those things are things I have often thought about. And the other thing is to make all working, whether it's a plumber or a lawyer, as important. I think our vocational education needs to be improved and needs to be honored. And if that is done, I think we'll have a lot of students who have no desire to go to four-year colleges but would like to possibly go to vocational schools. They'll have that opportunity. I just think opportunity is what our kids need, and support, accountability, and security is what our educators need.
Okay, thank you. And can you share your website with us one more time, just to make sure everyone has that?
It's Holt for SCSenate.com. And I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook, and my handle there, it's @Holt for SCSenate.
All right, great. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for participating in the Q&A with us.
Well, I thank you for having me. You have a great afternoon.
You too.
Okay.